Good morning. Today we are working in math lesson 611, and we are going to be looking at dividing decimals by whole numbers. So our math message for today says, 4 siblings bought their parents an anniversary gift that cost $84.12, including tax. If they split the cost equally, how much did each sibling pay? Be sure and write a number model down and then see if you can solve the problem. Once you've attempted to do that, then continue on with the video. So the number model that you should have come up with is $84.12 divided by 4 equals, we'll say S. Okay, so that's our number model. Every $84.12 divided by 4. Now, there's a couple different strategies you might have thought about. First, you might have thought about the dollars first and said $80 divided by 4 is $20. Then $4 divided by 4 is $1 each. So right now, each person's paying $21. Then I thought about the cents. 12 cents divided by 4 is 3 cents. So each sibling would pay $21.03. That's one way to think about it. Another way you might have thought about it is to think about giving different bills and coins. You can think about it and say, well, each sibling's going to give a $20 bill, which would be $80. Then they could each give a dollar bill, and that would bring the total to $84. Then they could each give 3 pennies, which would also make our total $21.03 per person. The other way you could have thought about it is thinking about that total amount as pennies. So if you did it thinking about pennies, you could say they had to pay 8,412 pennies total. So if you did partial quotients division to divide 8,412 by 4, you would end up with 2,103 pennies, or $21.03. Now, when we solve problems involving money, we work with decimals that are in a real-world context. When they evenly distribute money in the math message problem, we solve the decimal division problem, 84.12 divided by 4. Remember that in the last few lessons, we have learned that multiplying decimals, we had 2 strategies we could use. One was to use estimation to place the decimal point in the right spot, and the other was using powers of 10 to shift the decimal point. So in today's lesson, we're going to practice using an estimation strategy, to divide decimals by whole numbers. Then in our next lesson, we will learn how to use powers of 10 to shift the decimal point when doing decimal division problems. So, if you remember, in lesson 6-9, we solved multiplication problems like 1.2 times 0.8 equals 0.96, and then we multiplied 12 times 8. We just took the decimals out and got 96. Then we would think about where we would put the decimal point in that number to make it close to our estimate. So we can also do this with division problems. If the divisors and dividends in 2 division problems have the same digits in the same order, so will the quotients. So this means we can use similar strategies to divide with decimals just like we did with multiplying. So now we're going to take a look at that and see how it works. Okay, so first step we're going to do is to make an estimate. And if you remember, our problem was $84.12. $1.12 divided by 4. So let's use an estimation. Let's make our estimate of $84.12. We'll make that 80. We're going to say 80 divided by 4 equals what? That would equal 20. So our estimate is 20. Then we're going to divide as if these were a whole number. So we're going to think of it as 8,412 divided by 4. And when you do that, you can do traditional division or partial quotient division, whichever is easiest for you. When you do that, you should get the answer of 2,103. Then we're going to look back at our estimation to decide where to put the decimal point. Well, our estimation was 20. So to make that close, we're going to put the decimal point right here between the 1 and the 0, which would mean our answer is $21.03. So that's close to $20, so we know that that is the correct answer. Let's look at another one. Sophie had 6 42/100 meters of ribbon that she cut into 3 equal length pieces. How long was each piece? So the first step that we need to do is to write our number model. So we are going to write 6.42 divided by 3 equals some size piece. Then we're going to make an estimate. So when we make our estimate, we're going to round that 6.42 to 6. And we can all do 6 divided by 3. In our head, we know that that equals 2. So our estimate is 2. Then we're going to divide as if the dividend were a whole number. So we're going to take 642 and divide it by 3. So if we're doing traditional division, we would say 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract that and get 0. Bring that 4 down here. 3 goes into 4 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract that and you get 1. Then bring that 2 all the way down. We get 12. 3 goes into 12 4 times. Subtract that and we get 0 again. Okay? So now our answer here is 214. Now we're going to use our estimate to place that decimal point. If we look back at our estimate was 2. So that must mean we're going to put the decimal right here between the 2 and the 1. So how long is each piece of ribbon? It's going to be 2 1/1400 meters long. Okay, for this problem, it says Brandy bought 1 27/100 pounds of mixed nuts. She divided the nuts equally into 4 bags. How many pounds of nuts are in each bag? Okay, so we're going to first start out with a number model and an estimate. So our number model is going to be 1.27 divided by 4 equals, we'll say P for pounds. Then we are going to make an estimate. So when we do our estimate, we are going to say, when we do our estimate, we're going to round that 1.27 to 1, and we're going to say 1 divided by 4. We know that 1 divided by 4 equals 1/4, or we know that it's going to be a number that is less than 1. So let's go ahead and solve the problem, and we're going to use whole numbers for it. So 127 divided by 4. This time let's do partial quotients and see what we get. When we do partial quotients, we could say, oh, let's do 30 out here if we're doing partial quotients, because we know 30 times 4 is 120. Subtract that, that gives us 7 left. We know that 4 will go in there one time. So 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract that, and that gives us 3 left. So now we have 31 with a remainder of 3. Now, when we were doing fractions before, we would write that as 31 and 3/4, because remember, we take our remainder, which was 3, and put it over our divisor up here, which was 4. So we have an answer of 31 and 3/4. Now, we know that the answer is going to be somewhere between 31 and 32, correct? Because 31 and 3/4 would fall in between those two whole numbers. So, if I did this, we could say that our answer, 3/4, is closer to 1 than 0. So we could say that our answer is going to be pretty close to 32, right? It's closer to 32 than to 31. Now, we just said that 124 or 127 divided by 4 is close to 32 because we rounded up that answer to the nearest whole number. So we could write it like they've done it right here in this picture for us. And that says 127 divided by 4 is approximately or about equal to 32. Where should we place the decimal point to find our answer? Well, our estimate for 1.27 divided by 4 was 1/4, so we know that the answer has to be less than 1. That means I need to place the decimal point in front of the 3 and 32 to make it 0.32, like they did here. Now, we also notice that we still have this symbol here. It doesn't say equal to, it says it's about equal to. So that tells us that about how many pounds of nuts were in each of Brandy's bags. There was about 32 hundredths of a pound in each bag. So that's just a little bit different way of doing it. We just rounded up our answer because we ended up with a remainder with that one. And it's hard to do partial quotient division with remainders and using decimals. So that's why in this instance, we just rounded it and made it a whole number. And so then we said it's about 32 hundredths of a pound instead of saying it's actually equal to. So notice my equal sign has the little squiggly lines instead of straight lines. Okay, so now I want you to attempt to do the problems on pages 224 and 225. They're the math journal pages that I attached in the module. And so for the rest of the video, I will be going over those problems and showing you the answers. So number 1 says, 3 sisters set up a lemonade stand. On Wednesday, they made $8.46. If they share the money equally, how much will each sister get? Well, first we have to do our number model. So our number model would be $8.46 divided by, we have 3 sisters. So we're going to say that's going to be how much money will they each earn. So our estimate, we are going to round that $8.46 to 8. And we are going to divide it by 4. Rounded that 3 up to 4 because it's a little bit easier to divide with 8. So when we do that estimate, we get an answer of 2. Okay? Now we're going to go ahead and take our numbers and divide them like they're whole numbers. So we would say 846 divided by 3. If I'm doing traditional method, 3 goes into 8 2 times. Multiply those and you get 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. Bring down that 4. 3 goes into 24 8 times. 8 times 3 is 24. Subtract that and we get 0. Then bring down the 6. We all know that 3 goes into 6 2 times. So that multiplied together is going to be 6. Subtract that and we get 0. So we now have 282 for our answer. So we need to go back up and look at our estimate, which was $2. So that tells us our decimal point is going to go right there between the first 2 and 8 to make it close to $2. So each sister will get $2.82. Number 2 says, Janine is building a bookshelf. She has a board that is 6 7/77 meters long. She wants to cut it into 5 pieces of equal length. How long will each piece be? So our number model for this one is going to be 6 7/77 divided by 5 equals, we'll say L for length. Then once again, we're going to make an estimate for this. So we are going to, see, we've got 6.77 and 5. Let's just round that down to 5. And we're going to divide that by 5 as well. That gives us an easy division problem we can do in our head. We all know that 5 divided by 5 equals 1. Now we're going to do our actual problem. We're going to do it as though it's whole numbers. So we're going to take 677 divided by 5. And once again, 5 goes into 6 one time. 5 times 1 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 7. 5 goes into 17 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 17 minus 15 is 2. And bring down the other 7. And we have 5 goes into 27 how many times? 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. That's going to give us a 2. And then we can just tack on a 0 here, and we know that 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. That will be 0. Okay, so now our answer is 1,354. But we know from our estimate here that our estimate was just 1. So we have to put our decimal in right here to make it close to 1. And we are just doing answers to the 100th spot. So since our number beside the 5 up here is 4, that means we're going to keep this number the same or round down. So our answer is going to be that each piece is about 1.35 meters long. If we had done it with partial quotients, we would have ended up with a remainder. And so we would have done the same thing like we did on the last problem throughout the lesson, where we just took that remainder and rounded up or down and made it about, so our answer is about 1.35. For problems 3 through 6, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make an estimate, write a number sentence to record our estimate. We're going to divide as if the dividend were a whole number. Then we're going to show our work. That grid there is just for you to do your work. Then we're going to estimate to place the decimal point. Okay, so for number 3, we have 9 44/100 divided by 4. So once again, we're going to make an estimate, and we could round that 9.44 up to 10. And then we're going to divide it by, let's round the 4 up to 5 to make it easy, 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So that's our estimate. Then we're actually going to do the division as though this is whole numbers. So it would be 944 divided by 4. Let's do partial quotient this time. Okay. So let's say we are going to multiply 4 by 200. 4 times 200 is going to give us 800. We're going to subtract that. So we will get 144. So then let's try, we know that maybe 30, because we know 30 times 4 is 120. It's another easy one to do. Subtract this. We get 24, and we all know that 4 goes into 24 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. No remainder, so if we add these up over here, we get 236. Okay, now we need to go back and look at our estimate, which was 2. So we have to put our decimal point in here, so we're going to put it right here between the 2 and the 3, because 2.36 is pretty close to 2, so that will be our answer for number 3. Okay, for number 4, 46 and 8/10 divided by 12. We're going to first make an estimate. So let's make our estimate, let's round that up to 50. 50 is a nice easy number to work with. And then we're going to divide it by 10 instead of 12, because we know that 10 goes into 50 5 times. Once again, we always want to make that estimate an easy division problem. So our estimate for this one is 5. So now we're going to make our numbers whole numbers and actually do the division for those. This time we're going to do traditional again. 12 will not go into 4, but we know 12 will go into 46 3 times, because 3 times 12 is 36, so we're going to subtract this. It gives us 10 left over. Now we're going to bring down the 8. So now we have 108. How many times is 12 going to go into 108? Let's try 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry over 1. Oh, perfect. Okay, so our answer is 39 for our estimate, but remember we have to make it, or for our problem, we have to make it close to our estimate. Our estimate up here was 5, so that means we're going to have to put the decimal point right here between the 3 and the 9. So our answer is 3 9/10. Number 5 was 89 9/10 divided by 4. So we're going to start with our estimate, and let's just round that up to 100. That's pretty easy. And then we're going to divide by 4. Just leave that the same. So our estimate is going to be 100 divided by 4, which is 25. So our estimate's 25. Once again, we're going to take our problem and make them into whole numbers. So 899 divided by 4. Let's use partial product here again for those of you that like to use it. Let's take 200 times 4, because we know that's going to give us 800 to start off with. We're going to subtract that, and that gives us 99. Well, I know that if I multiply 20 times 4, that's going to give me 80. Subtract that. That will be 9, and that will be 1. 19. 4 will go into 19 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. 19 minus 16 is 3. So that gives us an answer of 224 with the remainder of 3. So if I turn that into a fraction, it would be 224 3/4. Then I can say, well, that would actually be closer to 225. So I'm going to say my answer is 225 because I just rounded that up. Now I need to go up here and put my decimal point in, which our estimate was 25. So I'm going to put my decimal right here between the second 2 and the 5. So I am going to say that my answer, notice once again here, they have approximately, not is equal to, 22.5. Because we rounded up that leftover down here with that remainder. So it's approximately 22.5. Okay, our last problem for today is 253 7/10 divided by 6. We're going to do an estimate again, so let's round 253.7 down to 250. And we're going to divide 250 by 5 because that's a little bit easier to do. I know that 250 divided by 5 is equal to 50. Okay, so that's our estimate. So once again, we're going to take our numbers and divide them like they are whole numbers again. Once again, let's try some partial quotients here. I know that 6 times 400, let's try that, is going to be 2,400 here. To start off with, let's subtract that. Gives us 7, 3, 1, so 137. Let's see, 6 times 10 would be 60, 6 times 12 would be 120. So let's, or 6 times, not times 12, times 20. So let's do 20. It's going to be 0, that's going to be 120. Subtract that, and we get 17. Then we know that 6 will go into 17 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. 17 minus 2 is 5. So our answer is 422 with this remainder of 5. So if we make that into a fraction, that's going to be 5/6, because our divisor up here was 6. 5/6 is much closer to 1 than it is to 0, so I'm going to round this up to 423. See, my answer is about 423. Once again, I have to go back in and put that decimal point in. My estimate up here was 50. So that tells me I'm going to put my decimal point right there between the 2 and the 3, because 42.3 is fairly close to 50. Whoops, there. And I have that once again, that approximately sign, instead of an equal to, it's approximately 42 3/10. Okay, so for today, you have math boxes 611 to complete and HomeLink 611, and then you will turn those into the submission place in the module. And then this will be your last module for this week because we have the next several days off. So be sure and accept the challenge for this week of sharing positive thoughts with one another. You might have seen all the examples of the videos and pictures of people doing chalk drawings. Make sure you share positivity with others, and I will see you next week.